Hey guys, it's Toby with Portable Tech Review. Today we're going to talk about the Blue Studio 6 LTE. Before we get into the phone though, I want to clarify something. Now if you like the video, you like the phone, you want to pick up one for yourself, it's available on Amazon as of this recording for about $200. But there's also a Blue Studio 6 HD for about $150, and it's important you know these phones are different. Now if it were just LTE and you didn't care much about it, you might be tempted to get the HD version and save some money. But there are a lot more differences than just LTE. The HD version has a lower resolution screen, a slower MediaTek processor, half as much RAM as the LTE, and much less internal storage, not to mention a smaller battery. I haven't used the HD, but that's a long list of improvements on the LTE that, in my opinion, makes spending $50 more a no-brainer. So let's get on to talking about the Blue Studio 6 LTE. First, I want to show you that Blue does include a lot more in the box than most companies, especially considering the price point. You get your typical wall wart and the charging cable, but you also get a case, earbuds, and a screen protector. Now, the case isn't anything great, but it does provide some protection and better grip. I haven't used the earbuds, so I can't really speak to how good they are, but they do have a mic in line to use for calls. Also, I haven't installed the screen protector because for this phone, Blue pre-installed one as well. Now, you may not be able to see, but up near the ports, and you may be able to hear my nail as I slide off of it, but there is a screen protector that was already installed. Now that seemed a little odd, so I tried to find out if the phone uses Gorilla Glass, and it does not. When I reached out to Blue, they would only say it uses their Infinite View technology, but that doesn't really tell us how durable the screen is. So it's a good thing that it came with a screen protector already installed. Now, speaking of the screen though, let's run down the specs real quick. Now the phone is a 6-inch 1080p IPS display with a PPI of 367. It really does have good viewing angles. I guess that Infinite View technology is good for something. The colors look nice, and Blue does include a couple of presets for the screen color under display and screen color. Now I personally didn't see much difference changing from standard to vivid. You also do have the custom option to customize it a little more. It is nice to have that. The brightness is okay, but I would have liked to have seen it to be a little bit brighter. Now the phone uses a Snapdragon 400 processor, which is no benchmark burner, but with 4 cores clocked at 1.6 gigahertz, it handled pretty much everything I threw at it with no problem. That's partially due to the phone's 2 gigs of RAM, something almost unheard of in a $200 phone. You also have 16 gigs of internal storage and a micro SD card expandability. Now the box says it does support 32 gigs, but I've seen in documentation that it supports up to 64. I don't have a card to test that, but I can say that with a 32 gig card, it works great. So we know the specs are pretty darn good, especially considering the price point. So let's look around the phone and check some of the build and materials. Now, obviously with it being a 6-inch phone, it is large. To give you an idea, it's about 1 millimeter thinner and about 1.5 millimeters narrower than the Nexus 6, but about 4 millimeters taller. It also weighs just a little bit less than the Nexus 6, so size-wise it's really close. Now the bezels on the sides are very slim, but the capacitive buttons at the bottom of the phone, which do light up when you use it at night, add a little bit to the height. Now, I don't have a phone here to compare for you, but this is a case from a friend's iPhone 6 Plus. And you can see that it's really similar in size. As we know, the iPhone 6 Plus is a 5.5-inch screen, and you get 6 inches here on the Blue. The home button at the bottom of the iPhone definitely adds some height to that phone as well. So that just gives you an idea of the size. Now, up top, along with the proximity sensor, you get a 5-megapixel selfie cam that takes pretty good shots if your lighting is good. Up top you have your headphone port, and on the bottom just your charging port. Now around back you have a 13 megapixel camera with a flash, and this silver accent here reminds me of the back of the LG phones. Obviously there are no controls here, but it just kind of reminds me of that style, that design. Now this camera performs pretty well in good lighting, but the flash seems to wash everything out. I'm not a photographer, I can't say exactly why that is, but I never took a picture with the flash that I was happy with. Now the back cover does pop off, and this is where we'll see the battery. Now the specs for the battery are actually on the underside, so I'm not going to remove it, but it is a 3200 milliamp battery. And you do get dual SIM support, and here's your expandable micro SD card slot. Now the white back here is a matte finish. You can see it has blue branding here, and then 4G LTE with a slit style speaker grill across the bottom, which I think looks nice. Now it is a little bit slippery, so I do recommend using the case that Blue included with it. It definitely helps with the grip. Now along the sides you do have a pretty convincing, almost a brushed aluminum looking plastic trim. I mean, it's not real metal, but you know, it's better than some of the super shiny trim that phones had for a long time. That combined with the trim on the back, it's a nice looking phone. Now it is budget. It is a budget phone, and the plastic doesn't hide that, but it is put together well. It feels good in your hand. It doesn't creak or rattle when you're using it, and it definitely seems to be put together well. And one thing I will mention too is a lot of times cases like this make the buttons harder to press. But actually, it's the opposite here. I think with the case, the buttons are actually a little easier to press. So on to one of my favorite things about this phone, and that's just how stock the software is. It is KitKat, and for this price it will probably never get Lollipop, but I don't mind. I like the fact that there's no bloatware, and the changes that Blue made are pretty minimal. Now if you're a fan of the heavier skins of other OEMs like Samsung or LG or even HTC, you'll have to find your own here. There are plenty of choices in the App Store. Now, if you're looking for a different skin, I would personally recommend keeping it light with the Google Now launcher. Or for more features, I like the Holo launcher for some of the gesture commands you can use. Being such a clean install to me probably helps the Snapdragon 400 and the 2 gigs of RAM keep the phone moving smoothly. Home screen movements are smooth and very little lag, if any. Apps open and launch quickly. Gaming was pretty smooth as well. Now games like Dead Trigger 2 had the slightest, just the tiniest of lag. Games like Clash of Clans played with no charm. Probably the biggest issues I had with the phone had to do with making calls. The proximity sensor often didn't cut off the screen when I was on a call, so I would actually hang up on people with my face. And the other issue was also with making calls. Every time I would start a call, the Contacts app would crash, and I would have to close it. Now, it didn't interrupt the call, but it was annoying to have to deal with that every time. Now, I did do a reset on the phone, and that pretty much eliminated the Contacts app crashing, and it actually seemed to help with the proximity sensor as well. I thought at first, you know, maybe with the phone size I just wasn't getting my ear in the right place, but it seemed to have helped by resetting the phone. Finally, LTE. Of course, LTE is fairly new to Blue phones. Very few actually have it, and we'll do a test real quick so you can see one live. Now I'm in the house where I don't get the best of service, but you can see, I mean, we're hitting 30 megabits per second at 31, 32, even there. Now I've done several tests in this same location. I've gotten as low as maybe 10, and I've gotten much higher, but you can see there we came in at 28.13 upload speeds. We're hitting 11, almost 12 this time. I'll show you a couple of results. Now I did have to reset the phone for those call issues, so I don't have all of the testing to show you, but you can see that this is this is by far the best results I've had in the last 2 or 3 tests. You can see 28 and 12 at 20 and 6, 12 and 6, and 16 and 10. So now this is on T-Mobile LTE, and you know, it's very, very impressive for the features that you get for the price of this phone. So at the end of the day, I really enjoyed my time with the Blue Studio 6 LTE. I appreciate the screen size and clarity for videos and games. I think the near stock approach to KitKat combined with 2 gigs of RAM allowed the phone to handle everything smoothly, and after a reset, even the couple of snags are all but resolved. The letdown for me really comes with the camera performance if lighting isn't great. A budget phone like this seems to always have a list of compromises as long as its list of positive points, but for the Blue Studio 6 LTE, the compromises list is largely non-existent. It's rare that I really enjoy a budget phone enough to keep it as my daily driver, and I was seriously tempted by the Blue Studio 6 LTE. If you're looking for the largest screen on a budget with the fewest compromises, this is about as good as it gets. So until next time, please subscribe. It helps me a lot. Also, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to know something that maybe I missed, please leave me a comment and I'll get back to you if I possibly can. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.